Hello, and welcome to How to Pay for Grad School Before, During, and After. As the title suggests, paying for grad school is something you need to plan for, not only before you start, but it also needs to be managed during graduate school. And lastly, after you have completed your program, it is important to know your repayment and possibly loan forgiveness options. This webinar was developed by the Office of Graduate and Professional Studies in conjunction with the Office of Financial Aid at St. Mary's College. It is designed to be an overview of financial aid available to graduate students, but is not intended to replace information or advice provided directly by the Financial Aid Office. My goal in the next 40 minutes is to demonstrate how you can pay for your graduate studies without risking your financial security in the future. Here are some things to consider. Remember, timing is everything. Apply for financial aid at the same time you're applying for admission to your program of study to allow sufficient time for processing. This is normally 6 to 8 weeks. Be prepared in all aspects of your life: budget, family, health, personal mindset, other life events or obligations. You may need to adjust your lifestyle in terms of spending. You need to realize that no one funding source is going to cover all your costs, so think diversification and give yourself enough time to do the proper research. You almost certainly will need to take out a loan, but there are ways to offset that cost. There are many possible sources of financial aid in addition to federal loans. The SMC payment plan, grants, assistantships or fellowships, work study, scholarships, private loans, employer reimbursement, or veterans or dependents of veterans benefits. And speaking of veterans, St. Mary's is a yellow ribbon school. For graduate students, professional students, and non-traditional undergraduate students who don't need to take out a loan at all, but just need to be able to divide their tuition into more manageable payments, this is the payment plan that exists. It's a 3-month payment plan administered by the St. Mary's Business Office for fall and spring terms, and a 2-month plan for summer. The cost is $25 per term, and a new application contract must be turned in before the start of each term for which you want to be on a payment plan. You can contact the business office for more information, and I provided you with the contact information here. Unfortunately, international students are not eligible for federal loans and grants. These students should explore home country-based or government-sponsored scholarships, school-specific scholarships, or private loans, which usually require a U.S. sponsor. There are several different types of assistantships, as you can see from this list. The direct and indirect benefits of an assistantship are fairly obvious. These positions are usually paid in the form of reduced tuition and a stipend for living expenses. Normally, a student will be assigned to a specific department and asked to work a certain number of hours per week or teach a specific number of classes. Besides the experience and funding, the networking opportunities are phenomenal. St. Mary's College offers assistantships or fellowships in the MFA in Creative Writing and the MA in Kinesiology programs. Details can be found on the program website. In terms of the types and sources of scholarships, here are a few. School-specific or program-specific. Here at St. Mary's, the School of Education, the Graduate School of Business, the MFA in Creative Writing, the MA in Kinesiology, and the MFA in Dance all offer partial scholarships for incoming or current students. Details can be found on their program websites. Professional associations or organizations in your field of study, like the California Association of School Counselors, the National Association of School Psychologists, or the American Association of University Women are a few examples in this category. Disadvantaged categories, there are often scholarships for them. Minorities, for example, the Hispanic Association of Schools and Colleges, scholarships for single mothers, the disabled, veterans, or women returning to the workforce. The SMC Library provides access to databases and catalogs for students interested in finding assistance with grants, scholarships, excuse me, scholarships, subsidies, government aid, and loans. And finally, search the web for scholarships. Some scholarship websites include FastWeb, Peterson's, Student Scholarship Search, and gradcu.com. In addition, UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles, offers a free searchable database called the Graduate and Postdoctoral Extramural Support, otherwise known as GRAPES. It contains information on over 600 private and publicly funded scholarships, grants, fellowships, and postdoctoral awards for graduate study, master's thesis, doctoral dissertation research, study and research abroad, postdoctoral research, and more. When you research scholarship opportunities, be sure to note the application deadlines and award timeframes. Remember, you can apply for scholarships, but being awarded one is not a given. Make sure you've applied for a loan amount sufficient to cover your needs. Then, if you are awarded a scholarship, you can always decline the disbursement for a particular term. This is an example of the screen for the GRAPES database at UCLA. Everyone should complete the FAFSA, which stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. This is in case your financial circumstances change mid-year. Even if you don't intend to take out a loan, some need-based scholarships will require you to complete a FAFSA. A new FAFSA must be submitted at the beginning of every calendar year, but you are funded based on the courses taken during the academic year, and the academic year runs July 1 through June 30th. Submitting a FAFSA automatically initiates the loan process. If you decide that you don't want a loan, you should let the financial aid office know. And the correct URL to access FAFSA is www.fafsa.ed.gov, as you see here. There is a FAFSA.com, but it's not the same thing. And although they are a student financial services company, they're going to charge you to fill out what is already a free form. In addition to the FAFSA, you will need to go to the studentloans.gov site to complete graduate entrance counseling and execute your master promissory note for the direct loan. It's important to know that the entire financial aid process can be handled via phone or email with our financial aid office. Everyone qualifies for $20,500 per academic year as a full-time graduate student unless you have previously defaulted on a federal loan. This is an unsubsidized loan, so it doesn't matter what your income level, you can borrow this amount to fund your graduate studies. There are two types of student loans, the unsubsidized direct and Graduate Plus. Now, I was just mentioning the unsubsidized direct loan. The $20,500 is the direct loan, and with a lifetime maximum of $138,500. Now, there is no maximum loan amount for Grad Plus. However, you're not eligible for Grad Plus if you have adverse credit history, like a bankruptcy, late payer status, defaulting on a loan, or excessive credit debt. You need to apply only once at the beginning of your program for the direct loan, but you must reapply every year for Grad Plus. You can always decline a disbursement during a specific term if you get a scholarship or a grant. And remember, if your program offers a Jan term, there is no regular disbursement of financial aid at that time. You will need to arrange for those funds to be added to the preceding fall term if you're already in the program, or if you're just starting in Jan term, you need to arrange to have the Jan term disbursement included in your spring term funding. You can talk to the business office directly about this and make sure that they understand that you do have financial aid coming in spring. Don't assume that they know that. You need to tell them that, and they'll work with you. I can't guarantee that they won't charge you a late fee, but at least they won't bar you from starting based on the fact that you haven't paid your tuition, as long as they can confirm that your financial aid is coming through in spring. Now, here's an example of a $20,500 direct loan, and this is what the repayment looks like. And this is standard repayment for a direct loan. Standard repayment is the default for anyone coming out of deferment. Remember, if you don't indicate otherwise, you will automatically be placed into the standard repayment program. This shows a standard repayment model for a Grad Plus loan. As you can see, the Grad Plus interest rate is slightly higher. Because your student loans can substantially affect your overall credit and vice versa, it's worth the time to spend a few moments on financial literacy. You may have heard the term FICO, which stands for Fair, Isaac and Company. This is the most common score type. The most important thing to remember here is that credit scores are fluid because they're recalculated after every credit inquiry that's made. FICO considers how are you paying your accounts, how much money do you currently owe, how long have your accounts been open, what different types of credit do you use, how much credit you use compared to the amount of credit you have available, how often and how recently have you applied for credit. FICO does not evaluate your age, race, religion, sex, marital status, not your occupation, your salary, or your employment history, where you live, child family support obligations, rental agreements, and student loans in deferment. If you are denied credit, ask the lender. It's your right for score reasons, because understanding those reasons can help you improve your FICO score over time. You can improve your credit behavior by making loan credit payments on time, reducing open lines of credit, especially newer credits. So remember, that credit card that you tucked away in your drawer and you don't use anymore, that still will count against you in a credit score, because it signifies additional available credit to you, even though you're not using it. So if you don't intend to use it and you want to improve your credit score, you need to cancel that card. Keep your balances low, or better yet, pay them in full monthly. You can correct inaccurate information. Be sure to check and make sure that your information is correct. Keep it updated. Dispute mistakes. You can improve, but you cannot repair poor credit. Bad credit stays with you for 10 years. So those credit repair services out there that you hear advertised, they're really a waste of money. You can find out your total loan debt in detail by going to the National Student Loan Data System. Repayment usually begins 6 months after graduation, and there are several different options you can look into. Standard repayment, which we've already talked about, is the default, but there is also income-based repayment, pay-as-you-earn repayment, and income contingent repayment. And I'll pause here for a moment and let you know that you're seeing a lot of websites and email addresses in this presentation. You will get a follow-up email tomorrow that will list all of these websites for you. So if you are not able to write them down quickly, rest assured you'll have them in hand tomorrow. Here's some important information about repaying your loans. Set up payments automatically through your bank account to reduce the chances of late or missing checks. Remember again, the standard repayment period for student loans is 10 years. That's according to the default plan. Use the government's National Student Loan Data System to track all your federal student loans. Income-based repayment is an option and allows your monthly payments to be capped at 15% of your discretionary income. Stay current with the law. The Project on Student Debt and the National Consumer Law Center's Student Loan Borrower Assistance Project have the latest and greatest on student loan developments. And finally, if you end up in a dispute with your lender, the Federal Student Aid Ombudsman may be available, or may be able, I should say, to help resolve the problem. For private loans, you could be in default as soon as you miss a payment. Private lenders' collection powers are not as strong, but remember, this is still debt that you owe. If you default on either your private or your federal loan, which is usually considered delinquent after 9 months, it will affect your credit and could prevent you from securing a credit card, a mortgage, an apartment, or a job. So rather than missing payments, a deferment can be requested. This is a temporary suspension of payments. If you re-enroll in school, you are unemployed, you face economic hardship, or due to a disability, certain military service, or following active duty. Another option is forbearance. Forbearances are temporary postponements or reductions because of financial hardship. However, in both cases, both with a deferment and a forbearance, remember, interest continues to accrue. Income-driven plans are designed for those in repayment experiencing partial economic hardship and whose outstanding federal student loan debt is higher than their annual income or represents a significant portion of their annual income. Remember, you must apply for these repayment options. And as I make the point here on the slide, not only must you apply, you must reapply annually. If you don't, because you have to qualify for these options, and you have to share your income tax information on a yearly basis so that the federal government knows that you still qualify. Income-driven repayment plans include income-based repayment, pay-as-you-earn repayment, and income contingent repayment. Income-based repayment, or IBR, caps your payments at 10 to 15% of discretionary income and you are eligible for forgiveness after 25 years of payment. Using an online tool that you can find at studentloans.gov, IBR participants must transfer their tax information, as I just said, annually to confirm that they're still eligible. Otherwise, a higher payment could result. The pay-as-you-earn repayment is a graduated repayment based on an individual's earnings and how they increase over time. Payments are capped at 10% of discretionary income, and you are eligible for forgiveness after 20 years of repayment. And then income contingent repayment extends repayment over time, but it also extends the interest paid. Payments are capped at 20% of discretionary income, and you are eligible for forgiveness after 25 years of payment. So really, the two most attractive plans are as you can see, are the income-based repayment and the pay-as-you-earn repayment. Now, this is a table here that illustrates what monthly payments would be under income-based repayment or pay-as-you-earn repayment at various income levels. And as you can see, it makes the payments more affordable and proportionate to the income level of the payer. So again, the point here is that your monthly payments are based on your adjusted gross income, not on the amount that you have borrowed. Income-based repayment coupled with public service loan forgiveness is what I'd like to discuss here with this slide. If you work for 10 years in a school, a hospital, the military, government, really anything in the nonprofit sector, this will qualify as eligible employment for public service loan forgiveness. I will make one disclaimer here. Any loan amount forgiven under a forgiveness plan could be viewed as taxable income in the future. So just to make sure that this is clear, you take out a federal loan, your loan is in deferment while you're in school, you come out of the program, your loan is in deferment for 6 months, then you go into repayment provided you're employed. You will go into repayment. If you qualify, you opt for income-based repayment or pay-as-you-earn repayment. So now you're paying a much smaller amount each month. You still pay 10 years, and very much every payment has to be on time, no skipped payments, nothing. At the end of 10 years then, if you have during that same time been working in public service, then you can be granted public service loan forgiveness on whatever balance remains. There is a balance because you're paying less than what you would be paying on standard repayment, which basically calculates an amount that ensures that your loan is paid off after 10 years. So when you're not paying that amount, you're paying something less, there is going to be a balance, and that's what you would be eligible for in forgiveness. But it may be considered taxable income in the year for which you receive that loan forgiveness. There are some other loan forgiveness programs for specific professions. This is for mental health professionals. Mental and behavioral health clinicians can get up to $50,000 to repay student loans with a 2-year commitment to work at an approved National Health Service Corps site, which they're normally located, or they are located in a high-need, underserved area in the United States. Payment is at the beginning of the service, so that loans can be paid down more quickly. You can go to their website, and it will show where these clinics are located. The California Mental Health Loan Assumption Program, this was created and funded by Proposition 63, which was the Mental Health Services Act of 2004. Eligible applicants would include MFT, PCC, school psychologists, may receive up to $10,000 to repay educational loans with a commitment to work for 12 months in a hard-to-fill or retain position within the county public mental health services. For teachers, there is something called the Teach Grant. Students can apply for this. So this you would apply for at the beginning of your program as a student, as part of your financial aid package. If you are enrolled in a state-approved teacher preparation program, which of course St. Mary's is, and you agree once you complete your program to teach in a high-need subject area like math, science, or foreign language, or also special education, for 4 years in a low-income or low-performing school, then you are eligible for the Teach Grant. It's very important to consider the service commitment seriously because this up to $4,000 grant will turn into a loan if the service commitment is not met. Unfortunately, this really only applies to special education teachers or single subject teachers teaching in the specific areas of math, science, and foreign language. This is not a St. Mary's call. This is really the way this federal Teach Grant, the way it was written and structured. There's also loan forgiveness for teachers. If you have a direct loan and are employed as a full-time teacher for 5 complete and consecutive academic years in a Title I school, again, Title I is another terminology which would refer to a low-income or low-performing school. At the elementary or secondary level, you are eligible for loan forgiveness. The benefits range from $5,000 to $17,000 depending on the school and the subjects taught. And you can find out which schools are eligible. They're listed in the annual directory of designated low-income schools for teacher cancellation benefits. The Lifetime Learning Credit offers up to $2,000 per tax return for each year you pay for college. In order to qualify for this tax credit, your modified adjusted gross income cannot exceed $63,000 as a single taxpayer or $127,000 for those who are married and filing jointly. Qualified education expenses do not include insurance, medical expenses, room and board, transportation, or other personal living or family expenses. So really, this tax credit only applies to your tuition and books. There is another tax credit called the American Opportunity Tax Credit, which is a little bit more restrictive. It's a maximum annual credit of $2,500 per eligible student for qualified educational expenses for the first 4 years of higher education. For graduate students, what this means is that you'd only be qualified for this credit if you complete your undergraduate degree and start a graduate degree in the same year. If you qualify for both credits, the Lifetime Learning Tax Credit and the American Opportunity Tax Credit, you can choose the one that gives you the lowest tax. So I'd just like to take a few moments here to summarize. These are the things to remember. Develop a funding plan. Get organized and keep really good records. You can see how this is going to span multiple years. So you really need to have good records that you can access before you start, while you're in school, and of course 10 years afterwards at least. Develop or modify your budget as needed. Follow developments or changes in the law at studentaid.ed.gov or equaljusticeworks.org. And then, of course, review your plan regularly. Don't put it on a shelf and forget about it. It's a living document that you need to update as circumstances change. New to St. Mary's this year is the SALT Financial Literacy Program. This is available to you throughout your time at St. Mary's and also as an alum. This value-added service provided by the Financial Aid Office is an online tool that offers help with managing your finances and loan repayment, as well as loan debt counseling and advocacy. It even has a job, internship, and scholarship search function. So not every school will have this. St. Mary's has purchased this and made it available to our grad students and alumni, and it's a very useful resource for you as well. And as soon as you become a student, you have access to it. So with that, this concludes the webinar. I know it's a lot of information in a short amount of time. If you have any questions, you can type them in now, and I'll attempt to answer them for everybody on right at this moment. Also, you're receiving an email, as I mentioned earlier, from me providing links to many of the topics that we discussed today. I really want to thank you, and I hope you found this session beneficial, and you feel confident that you can pay for your graduate studies without risking your financial security in the future. This is my contact information. You're welcome to send me an email or give me a call, and I've also provided the Office of Financial Aid's email address and their phone number as well. And we do have folks that will answer the phone at that number that specifically work with graduate students. So let's see if we have any questions from the group. Hold on for just a second. For the Science Teach grant, you have to have a science undergraduate degree. Well, the question is, are you going for a single subject credential in science? You don't have to have a science undergraduate degree to go for a single subject credential in science, which would then entitle you to teach science in high school or middle school. However, I don't know how far you've investigated this, but to get a single subject credential in science, you have to pass the CSET examination, which is a subject matter competence examination in science. There's really two. One is a general science and biology, and then there's another, chemistry and physics. You have to pass those tests to be authorized to teach those subjects, and it's very hard to pass those tests if you haven't majored in science. So the program would probably want you to take and try to pass those tests before you start the program, because you can only go so far in the program before you're stalled. The state government requires their credential candidates pass the CSET in their subject area before they go into their second student teaching placement. So I hope that's clear. In order to get the TEACH grant, you have to be pursuing a single subject credential in science, and then you'd be eligible for the TEACH grant. Okay, here, oh, this is the same person, I guess. They have you have a liberal studies undergrad, but I'm a nursing, but I am pursuing a single subject in science. So I want to know if I could apply for this grant. Well, yes, if you're in the single subject, I apologize, I didn't read the entire question. If you've been accepted into the single subject program, I assume you passed the CSET. So then yes, you could apply for that. As an international student, this is another question, does the work-study program apply to me? Not the work-study program, but St. Mary's does have on-campus jobs for international students. International students are eligible to apply for regular on-campus jobs. So you could apply. I know I actually employed an international student, not through work study, but as a regular a part-time employee, student worker. I have done that in the past myself. So yes, you could look for jobs through the Career Center for student workers, as long as they don't stipulate work study, which is a savings to the department. So a work study student is very attracted to them because they don't pay as much in wages. But if they don't stipulate work study, then you could apply for that job. and see if you would be eligible, or if they would interview you for the job, and I think they would, as long as work study wasn't stipulated. Okay, here's another question. Income-based repayment, does the income calculation come from your gross income or your discretionary income? So income-based repayment is based on your discretionary income. And, to tell you the truth, I have not, filled out the form or applied myself. But according to what I'm reading on the website, and you can go there yourself, just Google income-based repayment, and you can get into the very, into the very nitty-gritty details of this. But what I have read is that it's discretionary income. Another question, do government student loans impact your credit score? No, they do not. Does the payment plan apply to international students? International students are not eligible. Well, the payment plan, if you're referring to the St. Mary's Business Office, the payment plan through them, yes, international students could apply for that. If you're talking about income-based repayment and pay-as-you-earn repayment, those are only for federal loans, and since international students are not eligible for federal loans, it would not apply to an international student. Do you pay direct loans and Grad Plus loans back at the same time, or are they paid off one at a time? No, you would be paying them both off at the same time. If you took them out at the same time, you finished your program, basically your loans would go into repayment. How soon should I contact the financial aid office? I just had my admissions interview last week and it went well. Good. Congratulations. So financial aid will not start reviewing your file until you've been accepted by your program of study. So there's no point. You can do your FAFSA. It's good to get that out of the way. And you reference St. Mary's with the St. Mary's code of 001302. But then until you've been formally accepted by the program, they won't review your file. So the best thing you can do in terms of your energies is to get your application materials in as soon as possible so that your application is complete and you can get an acceptance into the program. Where do you suggest I look for fellowships? Any specific scholarship? Okay, so fellowships, I think I went through that in the beginning of the presentation. You can go to the GRAPES database that I mentioned in the first part of my presentation. There are some programs here, depending on what program you're in, that offer fellowships, and so that is a possibility for you. By the way, I didn't mention, and I should have mentioned, that a recording of this webinar will be posted on the Graduate and Professional Studies website. So if you'd like to view it again, you can. Right now, what's posted there is an older version of the webinar. So I'm recording tonight's webinar, so give me a chance to post that tomorrow before you check the website. But it will be on the Graduate and Professional Studies website. Go to Student Resources in the left-hand navigation, go to Financial Aid in the left-hand nav, and on the bottom of that page will be a recording that you can click on, and if you want to listen to the presentation again, you can. Let's see. Specific scholarships for teachers wanting to teach in Catholic schools. Oh, well, once you teach in a Catholic school, there is a discount offered by the School of Education here at St. Mary's. It will give you what it really amounts to a free class per term. So it's 50% off up to 6 units per academic term, so that a normal class is 3 units, so you would, it would equate to 1 free class. But you have to be teaching already in a Catholic school. So this would be somebody who maybe is teaching but isn't credentialed and then is pursuing a credential now while they're teaching. Or it could maybe apply to someone who's wanting to get their administrative credential, become a principal, and while they're currently teaching in a Catholic school. So I did talk about approval for the direct loan. Nothing would really stand in the way of you being approved for an unsubsidized direct loan, that $20,500 that I mentioned in the first part of the webinar, or towards the beginning of the webinar, unless you had defaulted on a previous direct loan or a previous student loan. That would be the only reason that you would not be considered for that. And also you would need to be carrying a full load, which is considered to be 9 units as a graduate student. The Grad Plus loan is based on credit worthiness, as I said earlier in the webinar, and any kind of adverse credit history would impact you and may not make you ineligible for the Grad Plus loan. Is the Federal Perkins loan and subsidized loan available for graduate students? No, it is not. So the Perkins loan is for undergraduate students. So it's a bit of if you are eligible for the Federal Perkins loan as an undergraduate, not pursuing only a credential and not a master's degree, then it may be worthwhile for you to go that route, but it really depends, because as a graduate student, you may have access to more funds, and that may be a better way to go. So I guess what I'm trying to say, if the Perkins loan gives you a certain amount of money, but it's not enough to fund your education and you don't have any personal resources to make up the difference, it may be that the only way you can get what you need to pay for, say, a credential and master's is to go the route of a graduate student. For the public service loan forgiveness, do we have to be working with the same nonprofit organization for 10 years, or can we work for different organizations over the course of 10 years? Yes, you can work for different organizations over the course of 10 years. Does the Grad Plus loan count as a federal loan? Yes, it does, and therefore it is eligible for loan forgiveness. Do you get a copy of my slides? No, you do not. But as I said, I have put a recording, or I will tomorrow put this recording, which the current one may have some things missing from it, because I'm always updating the presentation. So that's why I don't like to send out the slides, because I don't want old versions floating around. So I always have try to have the most current version uploaded, and that'll happen tomorrow. So give me till tomorrow afternoon before you attempt to access the recording again. Is there any information available about the average scholarship received by single subject MAT candidates? These are partial scholarships, and generally it has been my experience that they may cover the cost of a class or two. And current tuition is $945 per unit for the graduate education programs, and one class is usually 3 units. So it could, so you take 3 units times $945, and that'll give you the cost of the class. And those partial scholarships are usually enough to pay for a class or two. How long is the approval process for these government loans? Ideally, the approval process is 6 to 8 weeks. You allow yourself 6 to 8 weeks. However, they can move a little quicker, but you know, I would encourage you not to put them in that situation, but to get yourself accepted into your program study as soon as possible so that you then can be processed for your loan. Well, I provide the link to the recorded presentation. Yes, I think in my email, and I'll double check that, I did guide you to the Graduate and Professional Studies website, but that is where you will find the recording. Again, St. Mary's College, Graduate and Professional Studies, Student Resources, Financial Aid, and it's on the bottom of the financial aid page. But you can always email me, and I'll send you the link directly. To qualify for public service loan forgiveness, do nonprofit employees have to work full-time, or are they still eligible if they work part-time during the 10 years? I think it's full-time, but it may be that you really need to check the website. Again, Google Public Service Loan Forgiveness to get the exact information. It's possible, but don't hold me to this, that you would have to work longer than 10 years to qualify for, you know, if you're working only part-time. But I don't trust myself on that one. I'm going to have to check that one myself, and you can do the same. Okay. Okay. There you have it. I think that's the last question. Again, I hope you found this presentation helpful, and on behalf of St. Mary's, I would like to express my sincere appreciation in you spending the time with us, and hope that you will consider us as you pursue your graduate education. Thank you, and have a good evening. Bye now.